And I return to Ace Attorney Chronicles, Briar Road. It looks as though the police are still here, carrying on with their investigation. Perfect, so let's find Inspector Gregson as quickly as possible. Yes, let's see if he'll take a break from his chips to look at this silver tip Iris gave us for him. Huh? Okay, I guess present. This thing, Iris's postcard. Card for Inspector Gregson with a message on the back from Iris. Okay, but no, I don't need... no. Stop. Present. Gotta remember the damn controls. Inspector Gregson, do you have a moment? I'm sorry to say I don't. I'm a very busy man. Much too busy to talk to a pair of foreign gadabouts, that's for sure. We have these for you. A present from Miss Iris Wilson. Ah, from me? From her ladyship? Her ladyship? Give that here at once. Go on, hand it over, that's for me. Don't wait for me to give it to you, will you? What was that coin exactly? It's a silver crown, obviously. But it's a lot more than that. It's an appearance fee, that's what it is. An appearance fee? Oh, I see. You mean... That's right. From the adventure of Herlock Sholmes. Her ladyship always offers me a little financial reward for featuring me every time. Okay. Yes, of course. I know all about your exploits, Inspector. I read them avidly. Of course, her using my name without my say-so does make me the butt of a lot of unpleasant jokes. Still. Sorry, Inspector. That must be difficult for you. Never you mind that. So, what do you want to know then, eh? Sorry? Tell the gentleman in black whatever he wants to know. I'm not wearing black. I trust that won't be a problem, it says. Well, obviously it's not a problem. Go on, fire away. What do you want to know? Well, if you wouldn't mind, Inspector, we'd very much like to know the address of Mr. Natsume's lodgings. Ah, the little knife-wielding mustache Japanese fellow. He lives in a right old hovel. It's just over there. Look. Oh, the blocked up. Of course it is. Why else would they draw it? On the first floor of that house, on the corner where that wreck of a bicycle's propped up. That is nearby indeed. If I remember rightly, the landlord is a Mr. John Garadeb. Garadeb? Right, well, if you see her again, you make sure to give her ladyship my regards, you hear? I mean it. You tell her that Gregson sends his very best wishes. Don't worry, Inspector, we will. Bye for now, then. And long live her ladyship. Okay. He kinda had a reaction to Sasato, too, didn't they? I wonder if he's a lolly. Well, at least he told us what he wanted to know before he left. Yes, so then, shall we go and see what we can find in Mr. Natsume's lodgings? Definitely. Do we move there? We can move there. Mr. Natsume's lodgings. The lodgings of Mr. Soseki Natsume, according to information gleaned from Inspector Gregson. No, I want him to move in there. Mr. Natsume's lodgings. Oh, shit. May I help you? Yes. Would this be the residence of Mr. John Garib? Garadeb? I thought... What? Indeed it would, sir. And who may I say is calling? My name is Ryunosuke Naruhodo. Mr. Naruhodo is representing Mr. Soseki Natsume. I believe he takes lodgings here. We would very much like to ask him some questions about our client. What's she doing? One moment, please. I shall convey the message to Mr. Garadeb. That name. Did you see that, Miss Susato? That was a real-life English maid. I know. As I understand it, anyone of standing in English society employs a number of household staff. But that was the first time I've ever seen one in the flesh. Oh, this date keeps getting better. She acts like... The Japanese never did that. It certainly feels like we've really arrived now, doesn't it? We need only to meet a butler and the experience will be complete. Well, I'm not sure I'd go that far, but I understand the sentiment. Thank you for waiting. Mr. Garadeb will see you now. This way. Sorry, I'm just pausing for a moment to think of what he's going to sound like. What? Being an English gentleman, I suppose I'd have to give him... Although he's got tartans, do you suppose he's Scottish descent? I don't know what that name derives from. It could very well be just like the other names where it's a bad play on words and didn't translate very well. Good day to you. John Garadeb at your service. They all talk like this. I've only got so many voices, folks. Pleased to meet you, sir. This is Ryunosuke Naruhodo. He's a defense lawyer. Do excuse me for not getting up. I took a shot to the knee a few years back at the Battle of Maiwand? Don't you know? And a medal for my pains, but I had to withdraw from service, and head over the range to the up-and-comings. So he's a retired soldier. Yeah, you couldn't guess. It's a hell of a job getting up and downstairs now, I can tell you. I don't get out much, as you can imagine. Yes, it's quite a climb up here to the second floor, isn't it? I was panting at the top of the stairs. Speaking of, why are the windows unblocked? We must not be in the brick building. So the brick building was clearly an attachment, an addition, so we must be in the building that was beside it, and then the brick building is where Natsume was lodged, I guess? You really must take more exercise, Mr. Naruhodo. Do you think so? Well, Mr. Garadeb, no doubt you were very courageous to earn yourself a medal. Oh, yeah, it was nothing. The medal was just a folderol, really. Folderol? What is it? I don't know. Wouldn't like to offend the general, though, so I grudgingly displayed it on the wall. Why don't you fetch it down, Joe? Let these good people see it properly. I thought she was about to pour that in his lap. Joan, fetch... She did. Dash it all, woman, be careful. Oh, dearie me, I do beg your pardon, sir. You jolly nearly took the skin off my hands. Hands, that's not what a gentleman will say. I shall be more careful, sir. So, anyway, there you have it. Now, he... Okay, well, whatever. Living the quiet life now? Yes, I see. Now then, I hear you want to know about the chap lodging downstairs, is that right? Yes, we would be very grateful if you could answer some questions for us. Only two, please, naturally. Especially if you helps to keep the peace here in Blighty. We've forged an alliance with the Empire of Japan recently, as I'm sure you're aware. I mean, does tobacco juice really help with the tea? So this case is very much in the public eye, as it were. Oh, is it? Even had some famous detective poking around, you know. In this old house, would you believe? Yes, Mr. Herlark Sholmes. Could have been. Didn't catch the chap's name. Not really my cup of tea, all that detective business. I prefer more tobacco in mine. Oh, but you have a copy of Ranced magazine here, so... No. Anyway, the chap's investigating the foreigner's room as we speak. Is he? So he's in Sasaki-san's room. It's a bally nuisance, is what it is. The whole neighborhood is twitching its curtains now. I don't like all this fuss. It's jolly unsettling. About Mr. Natsume, then, Mr. Garrett, please do tell us. Ah, yes, the Japanese chap. Only been lodging here for a week. Oh, just 1 week? So he moved in very recently, then? I have 2 lodgers most of the time, one on the ground floor and one just below us. The first floor room became available a week ago, you see. Dash it all, Joan, do be careful. Oh my goodness, I'm terribly sorry, sir. I don't remember what accent I'm giving you. You want to know my opinion? I thought he was a shady sort from the moment I set eyes on him. Oh? Why? He seemed to have a most nervous disposition, always shaking and looking over his shoulder. Man had shady written across his sweat-soaked brow, if you ask me. I said to myself, Joan, that man is trouble. Sooner or later he's going to do something untoward. And I'm rarely wrong about anything. We won't be calling this maid as a witness, that's for sure. Was there anything else that struck you as suspicious about the man at all? That is off-putting. Yes, oh yes, indeed there was. And she's dying to tell us. The shady lodger. Had you noticed anything else at all about your lodger, Mr. Natsume? Oh my word, yes. The man was shadier than an orchard. I don't know why I've blended their accents together, or their voices together. Could you elaborate? Well, take the man's room. Absolutely stuffed full of books it is. More than anyone could ever read. And he never so much as passes the time of day with another living soul. I haven't seen a single visitor call. I mean, he's been there a week. He just trots off to that old bookshop every single day and comes back at 5 to light the gas fire. And the funny little man is up long past the time everyone else in the house has gone to bed too. Oh, I see. The gentleman on the ground floor goes to bed around 9 each night. But I've never known that Japanese fellow... This is really killing my throat. But I've never known that Japanese fellow to retire any earlier than 2 in the morning. Ah. I mean, could the time lag... Well, I guess not. I mean, it's not... Jet lag wouldn't be a thing. It took us a month to get here. I feel like you would acclimatize as you go a little bit differently. I like to take a ship. Like an old-timey ship. I mean, maybe not an actual steamship, but, you know, like ships, trains. That might be fun. Could you clarify something, I wonder? Zeppelins? What, pray? How do you know so much about Mr. Natsume's routine? Oh? I'd understood that neither of the lodgers live on this floor of the house. Is that correct? Excuse me. That's right, yes. Fuck. What is my voice? That's right, yes. They're both below us, on the first floor and street level. Then how is it that you know so much about the lives of your lodgers? The precise times that they come back in the evening, for example, even the times they go to bed. Good grief, Joan, do be more careful, woman. Oh my goodness, sir, I'm terribly sorry, sir. Something doesn't add up here. Very conveniently gets them out of having to answer anything here. I wonder if his name is a pun somehow with the moon. You might be too young to remember, but once upon a time, there was a moon-headed guy who was a sort of a nighttime mascot for McDonald's. I don't really remember what the shtick was. I was rather young myself at the time, but yeah, something about like late-night McDonald's, and then they had a new mascot. Anyway, it seems that the incident took place at around 5 in the evening. Did you happen to look out of the window at around that time? The window? Yes, we noticed that the window over there looks out over Briar Road. The incident took place... What's going on here? What is going on here? The incident took place on the pavement just on the far side of the street. Was there anyone suspicious loitering nearby? Wait a minute, is she the woman? With the stab? 5 o'clock is dinner time in the Garadeb house. So I'm afraid I don't remember... why are we doing this now? So I'm afraid I don't remember saying anything. How about you, Joan? No, sir. It would have been dusk outside already at that hour. And with the fog as well, I should think it would have been quite impossible to see the other side of the road. Oh, I see. So no witnesses. Did you notice anything else out of the ordinary, then? Such as? Anything at all, even if it seems unrelated. Well... Yes? Was there something, then? Well, there's nothing particularly significant, but at around that sort of time... For the love of God, Joan, watch what you're doing! Oh, dearie me, what have I done? I'm awfully sorry, sir. Do be more careful, woman. Of course, sir. If I may, Mr. Naruhodo. Oh, yes? I have an exceedingly good memory, and as far as I remember, nothing of any significance took place here at that hour. Nothing at all. Oh, really, Mr. Garadeb? The way you were talking before, it sounded rather like there might have been. Well, as I was saying, it was just a trifling matter, really. Oh yeah, she's definitely sus. She's the woman who got stabbed. Joan, dash it all, what is the matter with you, woman? I'm surprised there's that much tea left in there after all of this. Begging pardon, sir, nothing happened. Yes, quite. Nothing happened. We sat down to a quiet, uneventful meal. Joan? That's right, Mr. Garadeb. What is the matter with these two? It sounds like something happened here in this room on the evening of the incident, but what? Let's look over here, because I think I know. I wish I knew. Mr. Natsume's room. Can we look at this thing already? Could you tell us which floor Mr. Natsume's room is on? Oh, certainly. Just below us on the first floor. And Mr. Sholmes is investigating there, even as we speak? Yes. Told me Nats, his name, had asked to look into the matter, so I gave him the key. Mr. Natsume... I doubt this. Mr. Natsume has engaged Mr. Sholmes' service? That's a blatant lie. Would it be alright if we had a look around? In Mr. Natsume's room, I mean. Don't see why not. It's just down one flight of stairs. Who knows if we'll find anything that could help us with the case, but we have to try. We need all the clues we can lay our hands on, shall we? Yes, and while we're there, we can speak with Mr. Sholmes again. Perhaps he'll be able to tell us more. Okay. Well, while I'm given the opportunity, I'm gonna have a peek here. Are those mortar shells? They're enormous. Ah, I hadn't noticed. What are they doing there? I mean, they probably put the... those are things. A couple of little rounds I accidentally fired into the barracks during training, you know. They don't look fired. It became a bit of a colorful regiment folklore, that incident. I mean, you deliberately hunted out the spent shells? Well, I wouldn't say deliberately, exactly. They're only scrap iron, after all. Usually just thrown away, I believe. But you never know when things might come in useful, you know. Useful for what exactly? Yes, well... Joan here did manage to knock one of the bally things on my foot the other day while she was dusting. Oh no. Hadn't shed a tear since 1869 before then, you know. Okay, well at least we have that period to go on. Although I personally would have assumed 1890s at the earliest, early 1900s otherwise. Maybe reconsider throwing them away? That looks like a Medal of Honor, and it's showcased on a very grand banner. Yes, it's displayed with some pride, I would say, although it bothers me that it's not straight. Like everything else in this room.
What's that whole thing?
Sorry?
I should be glad to see the back of it, but the general would turn in his grave if I disposed of it. The wall's the best place for it. Keeps the belly thing out of my way.
So it's just been polished to shine by accident, I suppose. There appears to be an inscription on the metal itself. Look. Let me see. It says, "For distinguished participation." Sounds like the kind of honors even I could be in line for.
Well, one doesn't like to blow one's own trumpet, but I was given that for my time in the army. You can't measure an officer by the number of medals to his name, of course. Common knowledge in military circles.
Right. Wow, everything is inspectable. That portrait of Mr. Garadeb is glaring at me, I swear. Have you noticed that all the little frames contain photographic prints of Mr. Garadeb as well? Yes. And there seems to be a statue of a lion on the mantelpiece as well.
Ah, yes. Seemed to come back from the local pawnbroker with that little trinket.
Seemed to come back? What do you mean?
The chap who runs the place is a bally wizard. Went in to sell him something, and I swear my accent changes all the time, and came out with that thing. In point of fact, now I think about it, I'd rather often find myself leaving the place with something I don't need.
The lion ornament certainly does seem surplus to requirements. Susato-san doesn't pull her punches, or her throws for that matter. Of course, we gotta look at the uniform. That uniform looks fairly ancient, doesn't it? It's clearly been well looked after, though.
That old thing? Not much better than rags, really.
Oh?
All that ceremonial garb at my retirement bash, you know. But I'm not one for dwelling on the past, me. Would have gladly thrown it out, but you know how it is. Anyway, it doesn't hurt to have the odd piece of memorabilia lying around, does it?
Oh, I see. Perhaps we should leave the past in the past. Nothing about the sword. That's a full-sized cannon. What's it doing in here? Oh my, it's real. I thought it might be a replica.
That whole thing? That's a little more than a toy.
Sorry?
The army was selling it off when I retired, so I decided to give it a new home. Never know when the enemy might attack next. Jolly useful to have a cannon about the house.
Certainly got an old battleship right there. Really? It isn't overkill?
Be prepared, I always say. You never know what this twisted world is going to throw at you next, boy.
Do you think that there may be trouble brewing, Mr. Garadeb?
Always is. Take Joan here. Never fails to have a clean apron in reserve. Drives them over the barrel, you see. They drive very well, the cannon there, Joan tells me, which rather proves my point, I feel.
It's been reduced to a drying rack. No wonder the huge cannon looks like it's hanging its head in shame. Does it? Okay, the odd knickknacks, books. I notice you have a pile of books here, Mr. Garadeb. Do you enjoy reading?
Those old things? Ever experienced a London winter, boy? The nights are long. No better way to pass the time than in front of the fire with a jolly good book.
Oh, there's a copy of Ranced magazine here, I see. No doubt Mr. Garadeb enjoys the adventures of Sherlock Holmes, too. The great detective has a great many followers, it would seem. Okay. Seen that. What is that on the floor? Look at that enormous screen. It must have been put there deliberately, surely. Yes, it certainly seems like someone's trying to hide something from view. What could be behind it, I wonder? I'm going to have a very quick look. Just a little peek. Ahem, ahem. Maybe let's not, Miss Sato. I think the maid is going to head us off with a cup of tea. Ahem. Okay. This window looks out over Briar Road where the young woman was attacked. Oh, Oh yes, I can make out the policeman on the far side of the road investigating the crime scene. The glass is rather murky, isn't it? You can't see very clearly. Is this thing open at all, I wonder?
I shouldn't underestimate the bitterness of a London winter, sir.
Sorry?
As soon as you open that window, the tea will freeze in the pot. No Londoner would go opening windows at dusk in the middle of winter, I assure you.
It seems very unlikely that these two would have seen anything of the incident then. Not gonna mention that, huh? The table. Overturned. Oh, look! What a wonderful collection of cakes lined up on that gleaming silver cake stand. Lined up? Looks more like someone has half demolished them to me.
Afternoon tea is a time of indulgence, you know. It's quite the English way. It is Mr. Garradib's custom to take 2 cakes with his tea.
Sounds delightful. Oh, wait a minute though. There are at least 10 cakes on this cake stand.
Oh, well, naturally, it would never do to waste the leftovers. So whenever Mr. Garradib doesn't eat, I say to myself, Joan, you shall have to tidy up.
How magnanimous of you. The candlestick, missing a candle. This old candle holder looks a little out of place here, wouldn't you say? Yes, you're right. It's clearly supposed to be gold, but it's almost completely black for some reason. That would be the soot.
That old thing is just a piece of iron muggery. Gimcrack, really.
Oh?
I used it when I was studying, don't you know? For my commission. I know it's old, hardly worth hanging on to, really, but, well, still has its uses sometimes.
Of course. Does everything in this room have some elaborate story behind it? Reminds me of Baron Munchausen, actually. They're memories, Mr. Naruhodo. Memories. Okay, but I'm very interested in what's going on here. Look at this crockery on display here. It's rather unusual, isn't it? Oh my, a genuine London dresser. Isn't it delightful? Although the shelves seem to be broken and the crockery is... oh dear, it's in pieces. It really is. The word cracked wouldn't do that chinaware justice. Ah, I wonder. Perhaps the cannon was fired at it. Yes, probably something like that, but let's not delve too deeply here. What do you mean? What do you mean? What do you mean? This is clearly suspicious. Alright. No. That was unusual. I didn't know you could double-click and make that thing do the same thing. Yeah. Okay. Move. Mr. Natsume's room, a small dark room rented by a visiting scholar from the Empire of Japan by the name of Soseki Natsume. We'll run this one a little bit longer because otherwise this is going to take forever. What? Just look at this place. And smell it. It's so musty in here. I suppose it's the mountains of old books that are responsible for that. And the fact that there's no ventilation, clearly. I don't think I've ever seen so many books in all my life. No, me neither. It's so dark in here, too. Is that the window over there? Oh, sorry, wrong voice. Well, it was the window, I think, yes, once upon a time. But for some reason it's been closed up with bricks and mortar. So this is where Mr. Natsume lives. By the way, I haven't spotted Mr. Sholmes anywhere, have you? No, that's true, but according to what Mr. Garradib told us, the great detective should be around here somewhere investigating. More looking around. Oh, look, it's a beckoning cat from home. It's a bit big and bulky, isn't it? Surely Mr. Natsume didn't bring that Maneki Neko all the way from Japan with him. I hardly think you're in a position to comment, Mr. Naruhodo. Are you forgetting the enormous Daruma doll that you brought in your luggage? Well, it can be dangerous traveling abroad. I wanted a lucky charm. Well, I imagine Mr. Natsume wanted the same, and this cat is sure to beckon good luck to him. It's not doing a very good job so far, is it? You mustn't say such things. I didn't say a word. She is psychic. Why are my eyes such a giveaway? Although, maybe she's just a figment of my imagination. She's disappeared before. She's a ghost. Maybe I see dead people. That's why she always knows what I'm thinking. Look at all those books stacked up there. They almost reach the ceiling. They're all works of English literature, and they all smell so musty. With this volume of books to hand, you'd never be short of reading material, would you? No, what a dreamy idea. Bad dream, maybe. For me, at least. Mind you, I don't imagine the book that's at the bottom of the pile now will ever be read again. Ah, so reading it is an experience that comes but once in a lifetime, just as the tea ceremony teaches us. I certainly didn't expect the conversation to turn down the path of tea ceremony philosophy. There is a locked... Is that like a Ghostbusters retainment facility? This appears to be some sort of meter on the wall here. It looks very robust. I wonder what it's for. There's a slot for inserting coins here, too. Ah, I believe that is a gas meter, Mr. Naruhodo. A gas meter? Yes, it seems there is piped gas in this district, which consumers pay for by putting coins in the meter. So if we were to put a coin in the slot, that would be enough gas to use the lights and the gas fire for the whole night. So if you're too poor to have a coin, you'd have to spend the night in the dark and freezing cold? That's right, as would a rich man who only carried crisp, white notes. London is a scary place. Don't tell the Americans, they'll get ideas. Especially down in Texas. Hey, could you even call this a window? I think so. It was a window at one time, after all. Although, all that remains is a frame around some bricks now. So really, it's just a wall then, is it? Isn't it? But why would anyone deliberately brick it up like that? I'm afraid I have no idea. Ah, perhaps Mr. Natsume painted the brick design on it in a fit of whimsy. That's alarmingly feasible. Anyway, whatever the reason, the lack of ventilation in here makes the place very oppressive, especially with the gas leaking in. It does. I imagine being cooped up in a room like this would be extremely trying. That desk seems to be wedged into a crevice between the mountains of books on either side. I suppose Mr. Natsume would sit there and read while stroking his cat. But surrounded on all sides by these towering old tomes, surely he dreamt of books every night as well. Yes, he must have done, mustn't he? Oh, what's this? It's a receipt from a second-hand bookshop. Your books. Oh yes, Mr. Natsume's name is on it. Look, and the date of purchase... 2 days ago at 4:45 p.m. I'm sure this will be useful. That's the day of the incident. That's just a short while before he was embroiled in the terrible attack. He must have been on his way back from buying some old books. The second-hand book receipt has been entered in the court record. Let's take a peek at that right now. Examine. The sum of 2 shillings tendered in receipt of these books. Look at the cat in a minute. Look at all these balls of paper on the floor. There are notes scrawled all over them, in English. It looks like the wastepaper basket is so full they've just fallen out. I think Mr. Natsume must have been deeply immersed in his research, don't you? or deeply averse to tidying up his mess. I wouldn't like to speculate which is closer to the truth. Okay, but we can't look in his box. I just feel like there's going to be a thing with the... Oh, hello. Not yet. Oh my, what an adorable little cat. Perhaps he is looking after all the books while his master is away. Well, I don't know about that. He disappeared into that pile of books as quick as a flash. Well, not really. He kind of sauntered in there. It was a tricolor Mikke, wasn't it? Do they even have that sort of cat here in Great Britain? Perhaps Mr. Natsume brought the little creature with him from Japan. It's made me feel homesick now. Already? We've only been in the country for 2 days. We've also been on a ship for a month, Susato. All right, Mr. Sholmes. What was your accent again? Ah, look, Mr. Naruhodo. Look, Mr. Naruhodo. Aha, there he is. Where did he appear from? He seems to be engrossed in the pages of an old book. I hope he won't mind if we disturb him. Hello, Mr. Sholmes. Ah, you two. Good day. Now, let me see. Where was it that we've met? Oh, Mr. Sholmes, we were together on the SS Burya. Yes, of course, the Burya. And let me see. What happened on that voyage? The Japanese must have the shortest goldfish memories in existence, because it's like this with anime, and it's just TV shows recap all the goddamn time. It was Kazuma Asogi. He died tragically, but you were a great help to us. Ah, yes, but of course, the case of Mr. Asogi. It was the one with the snake, wasn't it? No. Well, you seem to remember something of it, at least. What an honor to be remembered vaguely. To be remembered vaguely by the great Herlock Sholmes. This is Mr... Oh, no, my dear madam, hold your tongue. I pride myself on my superior powers of recollection. Your names are safely recorded in my brain attic. Miss Naruhodo. And Mr. Susato. Try the other way around, Mr. Sholmes. I lose the first round. In truth, I had hoped to invite you both to my Baker Street suite the day we arrived in London. Oh, did you? But some Scotland Yarders ambushed me at the railway station and whisked me away to a crime scene. How did he... I guess we were on the same ship. It was an entirely trivial case, of course. I solved the matter in no more than 30 minutes. We are talking about this one, yes. So they have apprehended Soseki-san in that short an amount of time? I'm afraid the pursuance of a new case has dulled my recollections of my past involvements a little. A little? It is a mistake to think that one's brain attic has elastic walls and can distend to any extent. I do my best to forget useless facts, lest they should elbow out the useful ones. Yes, those are my own words of inimitable wisdom, for from an adventure entitled A Study in Scarlet. Please, there's no need to quote yourself. I don't always remember my pearls of wisdom, but fortunately my associate pens them beautifully. He means Iris, I suppose. Mr. Sholmes, we have some extremely important questions to ask you about the trivial case you just mentioned. Goodness, what an earnest expression. My dear madam, I should be only too pleased, and this murky room is an apt place to discuss the murky case. Go on. Mr. Natsume's arrest. We know this to be the lodgings of a Japanese foreign student by the name of Soseki Natsume. It seems that you assisted in his arrest, Mr. Sholmes, for the stabbing of a young woman outside here on Briar Road. Natsume, yes.
I believe it was a name rather along those lines.
What is he doing in his room if he doesn't know what the hell we're talking about? But Mr. Natsume denies it. Was it really justifiable to arrest him on so little?
I'm sorry, Miss Susato, but I have not the slightest idea what you mean.
What? I can't believe he was looking Susato-san squarely in the eye while feigning ignorance.
I assure you I am not merely feigning ignorance.
God, I just talk out loud. That's all. I just think out loud.
It would appear as if the pair of you are under some misapprehension.
Oh? How?
I assure you I have no recollection of accusing your stooped compatriot of the crime.
But that doesn't make sense.
The good detective of Scotland Yard had made the following request of me, and I quote, verbatim, "We need you to ascertain the identity and whereabouts of a man seen fleeing the crime scene."
A man seen fleeing.
There were a number of books scattered on the pavement at the scene. From the book plates, I was quickly able to determine the bookshop from which they had been purchased. On speaking with the proprietor, I was immediately led to this address. Elementary, wouldn't you say? I believe there is a receipt around here somewhere from the establishment in question.
So you don't think Mr. Natsume is the culprit, then?
That I could not tell you. But it was aggravating my faculties, hence why I returned here.
I see.
However, this place is such a trove of fascinating books, I found myself quite lost in bibliophilia. Do not be deceived into believing that I am a man of leisure. Man of leisure. No.
Oh dear. Mr. Garadeb, the landlord.
Tell me, have you encountered the landlord of these lodgings?
Yes, Mr. Garadeb, a retired military man. Questionably. It was the first time I've ever met a soldier from the great British institution that is the services. It was the first time I've ever met a maid from the great British institution that is service. I didn't think it was that funny.
I do apologize.
As you may well be aware,
many households in London employ a maid.
Yes, I read as much as in my Great Britain primer.
And so, conversely, whether or not a household employs a maid has come to betoken the social standing of those dwelling therein.
Betoken their social standing, sorry?
Put simply, my dear fellow, those who employ at least a single maid are considered middle class. Those who do not are beneath that. In the upper echelons of society, of course, households employ enough staff to constitute a large family. Goodness, how extraordinary. As you can appreciate, for those on the precarious boundary between the middle and lower classes, being able to afford just one maid is of the first importance.
I had no idea.
And it is for precisely that reason that I find great stimulation in the situation upstairs. Specifically in the retired army veteran, Mr. John Garadeb.
Oh?
Affable as he is, the fellow is hiding something, no shit. Whether or not it imposes on the circumstances of this case, I am as yet unable to ascertain.
I'm thoroughly lost on what he means to say. The dingy room.
This room is thoroughly suffocating for the soul, my dear fellow, and probably the lungs. I assure you, any man whose lot is to dwell in a place such as this will stab somebody sooner or later.
Mr. Natsume has stabbed no one.
But sooner or later, as I said.
I don't believe that's the issue here. About this dark little room, Mr. Sholmes. Why is there no longer a window? Do you have any idea?
No window?
Well, I mean, I can clearly see there is a window of sorts. But it's been completely blocked with bricks.
I see. The answer to that question is quite simple. Window tax.
Window tax? What is that? Surely not a tax on windows.
Precisely that.
Oh my goodness.
Until relatively recently, a tax was levied on households in this country by the number of their windows. Those of lesser means, having inherited a sizable and costly family home perhaps, rapidly closed windows up, while the rich opened windows here, there, and everywhere, in an effort to curry favor with those in power by furnishing them with large sums of tax money. How awful and unjust, forcing people to live in rooms devoid of light. Indeed, disease was rife as a result. So, some 40 years ago, or thereabouts, the window tax was abolished. But its legacy remains, as you can see, in squalid lodgings such as these, for example. I suppose Mr. Natsume's stipend for living here in London isn't very generous, perhaps. It would appear so. I've done a little digging, and discovered that these lodgings were offered at an extraordinarily low price. Because the room is so awful, I should think. Apparently, Mr. Natsume only moved in here about a week ago. Yes, that's correct. However, I don't believe the low rent is explained by the shabby nature of the accommodation. Oh? Still, that is of little relevance here. Matter not worthy of further attention. You sure? I'm curious now. Well, I believe I've told you all I can now. Thank you, Mr. Sholmes. Yes, Mr. Naruhodo. Was it not your intention to become a practitioner of law? Well, I mean, you remembered that, did you? Will you perhaps be offering your services in this very matter, I wonder? To the occupant of this room, Mr. Natsume, was it? I'm not sure. Not sure? On what grounds? Well, I actually defended someone in court here only yesterday. Really? Well then, I congratulate you, sir, on an ambition realized, and so promptly, too. The thing is, it's really made me question things. Am I right to believe in my clients? To trust in their innocence? Yes, trust. Mr. Sholmes, Mr. Natsume didn't do it, did he? My dear fellow, I haven't the first idea. Oh, but I thought that's why you were here. Didn't you come back to investigate? Yes, that was indeed my initial intention. But there are simply too many fascinating books here. I couldn't possibly ignore them. Oh, I see. Nevertheless, there are two facts that I can state quite unequivocally. The man who fled the scene of the crime 2 days ago was the Japanese occupant of this room, and there are witnesses who swear to having seen the same man commit the crime. That is all I can say. The inspector didn't think there were witnesses. And one more thing. Oh? What is it, Mr. Sholmes? Tell us. I cannot say with any certainty whether or not it is of relevance to this case, but I am quite sure that the retired army man who owns this property is hiding something. Yes, you brought that up again. Mr. Garadeb? Mr. Sholmes said as much before, actually, didn't he? Anyway, at present, that is really all that plays on my mind in relation to this case. Mr. Naruhodo, as yet our investigations have uncovered nothing that could help establish Mr. Natsume's innocence. No, you're right. Perhaps it's time we probed a little deeper into Mr. Garadeb's secret. Just remember, I cannot be sure whether the landlord's secret will prove to be of relevance or not. But I wish you every success, of course, Mr. Naruhodo. A busy man indeed. He's gone back to his book in the corner of the room. So that means he is still here then, presumably, so that we can come back later to perhaps ask a question. I mean, should we look at him right now? Yep, this is how you talk to him again. Excuse me, Mr. Sholmes. Yes, so true. To be or not to be? That is indeed the question, Mr. Naruhodo. To be or not to be brushed off, that is the question, and the answer is all too clear. Let's leave Mr. Sholmes in peace, shall we? All right. Back we go, then, to more
Trying to remember the accents I did just 5 minutes ago. Anyway, I'm going to end this one here. I will see you next time.